What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Hangout Spot where you already know it's Real Talk Sports Talk, live from my man cave. It's your boy Johnny, and let's talk football as I'm about to drop my Week 15 NFL picks with spreads, a full docket of games, 16 games in total. So we're going to move fairly quickly so we can get through all these games. There's a lot to cover. Last week, I was actually 10-5 picking the winner outright and 9-6 versus the spread. But one thing I want to point out, when I'm making my picks, I'm making them on a Thursday. So whatever the online has as the spread is what I'm going by. They have the tendency to change closer to game time. Could be late scratches, it could be injuries. So just keep that in mind. If you're going with my picks, with my spreads, I'm picking Thursday. I'm not picking Sunday before the games. Just wanted to point that out. Let's start with tonight's Thursday night game between the 5-8 LA Chargers, who are traveling to Las Vegas to face the 5-8 Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are coming into this game as a 3-point favorite, and this is yet again another ugly Thursday night game with a rookie quarterback on both sides, right? You have Easton Stick, who's going to be starting for the Chargers. Justin Herbert is out for the season with a fractured finger. And Keenan Allen, their number one receiver, is also out. So that's 108 catches and 7 touchdowns that this rookie kid is not going to have to rely on. It's going to be tough for him to be able to move the ball. And then you have Aiden O'Connell, who's also trying to find his way. They've lost 3 in a row after winning the first 2 once Antonio Pierce was promoted. But the recipe here is just to run the ball with Jacobs, try to work off play action, and get the ball into Davante Adams' hands. I think they'll be able to do that in this game because I don't like the Chargers secondary at all. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick the Raiders to win this game and cover the 3 points at home, which takes us to our 1 o'clock game on Saturday. We actually have 3 Saturday games this week. And that game is the Minnesota Vikings, the 7-6 Minnesota Vikings, who are traveling to Cincinnati to face the 7-6 Cincinnati Bengals. Right now, the Bengals are a 3-point favorite. And the story for the Vikings is Joshua Dobbs was benched. He's been demoted to third string. Nick Mullins was announced as the starter. So you're thinking that Kevin O'Connell is trying to find a spark here on offense. They just haven't been scoring a lot of points. They did win last week, but they only won by a field goal, 3-0 against the Raiders. That's just not going to get it done the rest of the way, especially a team that's fighting for a playoff spot. And then you have the Bengals, who have won 2 in a row, have scored 34 points in both those games. And it's mainly because rookie Jake Browning is playing really solid, competent football. 75% completion percentage, 5 touchdowns against 2 interceptions, so he's not turning the ball over either. He's giving the ball to Mixon. He's finding Jamar Chase in the passing game. You have to give Zach Taylor a lot of credit with the way he's handled this rookie quarterback. When Joe Burrow went out, I thought this team was going to be dead in the water. Give them credit. I picked them to win last week because I figured if they did win, they would find a way to get into that playoff mix, and they did do that. I'm picking them to win again. I'm riding the Browning train. I'm going to pick them to win and to cover the 3 points at home, which takes us to our 4:30 game between the 7-6 Pittsburgh Steelers, who are traveling to Indianapolis to face the 7-6 Indianapolis Colts. Right now, the Colts are a 1.5-point favorite, and this is another game with severe playoff implications. Both these teams, if the season were to end today, will take the 6th and 7th, the last 2 playoff spots. But again, it's going to be vital for the winner here because there are a lot of other teams that are vying for those 2 spots that have the same record as them currently. The story with the Steelers is Kenny Pickett is out. Mitch Trubisky is the starter at quarterback. So if you're the Steelers, you got to be worried. Your defense is more than formidable. They can win games if you score points. I just don't see how you're going to score a lot of points with Mitch Trubisky at quarterback. That's just my opinion. And then you have the Colts. They've won 4 out of the last 5, but they did lose last week. They finally stopped the Minshew train. But they're a solid team. They're playing at home. Minshew has that offense playing inspired. Jonathan Taylor is out at running back, so that's a big loss. But Zach Moss is a more than capable backup to be able to fill his shoes. Just continue to find that chemistry and give the ball to Michael Pittman, and I think the Colts should be fine. I'm going to pick the Colts to win this game and to cover, which takes us to our Saturday night game between the 7-6 Denver Broncos, who are traveling to Detroit to face the 9-4 Detroit Lions. Right now, the Lions are a 4-point favorite, and this was a tough one. And the common theme the rest of the way while I'm picking these games is there's going to be a lot of these games that I had a hard time trying to pick who I thought would win. The Broncos, I mean, they've won 5 of their last 6. They did beat the Chargers last week. Russell Wilson has been playing solid football all season. 23 touchdowns against 8 interceptions. The story with him is the offensive line hasn't been good for a large portion of the season. He's been sacked 38 times. You got to figure if they give him some time and they keep him upright, they will be able to have success. Courtland Sutton, I mean, we got to start talking about this kid. You know, he is a really good young talent, almost 700 yards receiving and 10 touchdowns. So good chemistry with Russell, but it seems like Russell is always running for his life, you know, and that's going to have to change. You know, they're going to have to start playing more formidable on the offensive line for the Broncos to have sustained success. Right now, I think that the Broncos can be a playoff team, but, you know, it all depends. That all depends. And then you have the Lions, who are, you know, they look really good on offense on some weeks, and then they just look so disappointing on other weeks. I mean, last week was a disappointing loss to the Bears, a game that I thought that they were going to win easily. And in their last 4 games, they flip-flop wins and losses. They won one, they lost one, won one, lost one. You know, so you kind of wonder what Lion team you're going to get. If you get the Lion team that scores points, you know, they got a great chance to beat anybody. I mean, right now they're currently 7th in the NFL in average points scored at a little bit over 26 points a game. They have a stud wide receiver in St. Brown, who has over 1,000 yards receiving and 6 touchdowns. Goff has been solid. He's spreading the ball around as well. There's 2 other receivers that have 5 touchdowns or more. But again, you just don't know what Detroit Lion team you're going to get. So if you follow the trend with win-loss, the trend says that they win this week. So since I had a hard time trying to pick the winner in this one, I'm going to go with what the trend will say. And I'm going to say that they're going to win this game at home and they're going to cover the 4 points, which takes us to our Sunday full slate of 1 o'clock games, starting out with the 5-8 Chicago Bears, who are traveling to Cleveland to face the 8-5 Cleveland Browns. Right now, the Cleveland Browns are a 3-point favorite, mainly because they snapped a 2-game losing streak last week and they won 31-27. Joe Flacco, he was sitting on his sofa just 3 weeks ago. He comes in and in 2 games, he's thrown 5 touchdowns and he's added a lot of stability to that offense, a lot of veteran leadership. So if you're a Browns fan, the only thing that you can hope for is you get competent offensive line play so that you can keep him upright and keep him mobile. If you're going to have bad offensive line play and he's going to be flushed out of the pocket, trust me when I tell you, he's not going to be as effective as sitting back there picking a defense apart. That he's capable of doing. The good thing about the Browns is they have a formidable defense as well. They're middle of the pack. I mean, they're 10th in the league in total interceptions, and they're 14th in average points allowed. Myles Garrett, obviously, he's a stud, so he gets after the quarterback. And then you have the Bears. I mean, they've won 3 out of 4. I mean, they've been sneaking a few wins here and there the last 4 weeks. Fields has been up and down. Last week he had a good game, 233 yards and a touchdown. He also rushed for another one and a nice touchdown throw. That touchdown throw was late in the game to kind of ice it. DJ Moore, I mean, he is what he is, 1,000 yards receiving and 7 touchdowns. And their secondary has been pretty good. They're second in the NFL, with 15 interceptions. So, Flacco has to be careful, and not throw the ball to the other team. That being said, I kind of like the Browns in this game at home. So I'm going to take them to win, and I'm going to take them to cover the 3 points as well, which takes us to our next game, the 6-7 Buccaneers, who are traveling to Green Bay to face the 6-7 Green Bay Packers. Right now, the Packers are a 3.5-point favorite at Lambeau Field. Again, another game with severe playoff implications because there are a number of teams at 6-7 that are vying for that 6th and 7th spot in the NFC. And both these teams are almost even in average points scored per game on offense and points allowed on defense. So this was another one that I kind of flip-flop back and forth with. I mean, Baker's been solid. The Bucs have won 2 in a row. They're in a 3-way tie for first at 6-7 with the Falcons and the Saints. So you got to think that, with first place well within their grasp, they're going to start to up their game. Defensively, they've also been solid as well. But you got to think that that's the norm with a Todd Bowles defense. They're 10th in the league in total sacks and 13th in interceptions. Mike Evans is a stud, 10 touchdowns. But the Packers, other than the Giant loss, I mean that was a bump in the road. They come into that game winners of 3 in a row. Jordan Love had been playing a lot better, distributing the football. He has 3 really good young wide receivers, Reed, Watson, and Dobbs. Together they have 17 touchdowns combined. So that's what I'm most impressed about with Love's progression, is how he's spreading the ball amongst 3 really good young receivers. So again, I had a tough time with this one, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say that the Packers win this one at home. Lambeau is always a tough place to play as the visitor. I'm going to pick them to win and cover the 3.5 points, which takes us to our next game with the 7-6 Houston Texans, who are going to be traveling to Tennessee to face the 5-8 Tennessee Titans. Right now, the Titans are a 3-point favorite at home. They're actually 4-2 at home, as opposed to 1-6 on the road. But they did get their first win on the road last week, beating Miami by a point. And that was mainly because Will Levis was solid. He threw for 300 yards and a touchdown. Derrick Henry, picked up some yardage and a touchdown on the ground as well. And then Hopkins, he's sneakingly, again, he's going to sneak in another 1,000-yard season. He's been kind of quiet in the headlines. Not a lot of fans really respecting him as a top receiver anymore. But here we are, here we sit, and he has 899 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. He's probably going to hit the 1,000-yard mark again. The story with the Texans is C.J. Stroud. More than likely, he's not going to play. As of today, he was still in concussion protocol, so I doubt he's going to suit up. If he doesn't, you're going to have Davis Mills, who is going to be the quarterback, and he's capable. He's played in 31 games the last few years, and he has 33 touchdowns and 25 interceptions, so he's not terrible. He's actually a very good, capable backup quarterback, but I don't know. I think the Texans are going to struggle in this one. I like the Titans because they play well at home. And if they feed Derrick Henry and work off play action, Will Levis is getting a lot better. So I'm going to pick the Titans to win at home and cover the 3 points, which takes us to our next game between the 8-5 Kansas City Chiefs and the 3-10 New England Patriots. The Chiefs are coming in at a 7.5 point favorite. The story with the Chiefs is they haven't looked good lately. They lost last week to the Bills 20-17 on what they thought was a controversial call, but realistically it was the right call. Kadarius Toney was offsides. They have since apologized, and when I say they, I say Mahomes and Andy Reid, who went berserk and looked like crybabies after the game, complaining about that call. They've since went public this week and apologized. Their thing was Kadarius Toney lined up offsides on numerous occasions early in that game, and it was never called. So they were just looking for some consistency. So I can see that. But at the end of the day, they got to stop whining about calls, because they are the team that gets the benefit of the most calls. It's been that way this year. It's been that way for the last few years. In fact, they won a Super Bowl on a controversial call. So they got to stop that nonsense. The biggest thing they got to worry about is the 33 drop passes that they have from their wide receivers, mainly Kadarius Toney. That's the problem. Mahomes' job is to deliver the ball. Their job is to catch the ball. But if they do catch the ball, their defense is legit. They're third in average points allowed. They're only giving up a little bit over 17 points a game. And they're third in total sacks with 42, mainly because of Chris Jones, who's a stud on the defensive line. And then you got the Patriots, who just aren't a good football team. For the first time in weeks, they finally got competent quarterback play. Bailey Zappi threw for 240 and 3 touchdowns in a win versus Pittsburgh. But realistically, they're dead last in the NFL in average points scored. They're only averaging 13 a game. I don't see how that number gets any better against a Chiefs defense and a Chiefs team in general that's chomping at the bit to get back into the win column. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the Chiefs to win this game big and cover the 7.5 points at Foxborough, which takes us to our next game between the 5-8 New York Giants and the 6-7 tied for first place in the NFC South New Orleans Saints. Right now, the Saints are coming in as a 6-point favorite. The story here is Tommy Cutlets, Tommy DeVito, who's been playing competent football since he has been inserted as the starter. He's passing at 65.9% completion. He has 8 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. It wasn't that long ago that he came in against the Jets and he wasn't even allowed to throw a pass. Now he's not only throwing passes, but he's also being careful with the football as well. He's making good decisions. He hasn't been lighting up the field. He's only averaging close to 143 yards on average, in the air, but he's also taking what the defense gives him on the ground. He's not afraid to tuck it in, and run for a first down, and that's going to help him move the chains and open up the offense a bit. But the key with the Giants is for him not to make mistakes, to continue to progress and get better, and you got to give Dable credit for that. And also, obviously, to feed the ball to Barkley, both on the ground and in the passing game. If you get him involved, the Giants will be okay, because Wink Martindale has done a phenomenal job with this defense. The Giants right now at 5-8 realistically are in the playoff hunt in the NFC. But I think this is where it stops, and it isn't because I have a lot of confidence in the Saints. I mean, they've been very inconsistent all year, but I mean, they're playing at home in the Dome. Carr hasn't been great. I'll be the first one to tell you. I mean, he put up way better numbers when he was the quarterback in the Raiders. This year, 13 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. And he does have weapons. That's the crazy part. I mean, Olave, Michael Thomas, Shaheed, this rookie kid, he's explosive. And they only have 8 touchdowns combined. Not to mention Alvin Kamara on this team. So you kind of wonder why he has not been able to get that chemistry and get this offense rolling. But maybe this week is the week, playing at home. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick the Saints to win this game. However, I think it's going to be a close game. I think the Giants are going to keep it close and lose, but I think the Saints win this game. So if you're picking the winner, I'd pick the Saints. If you're picking against the spread, I'd take the Giants in this one, which takes us to our next game between the Atlanta Falcons at 6-7, who are traveling to Carolina to face the 1-12 Carolina Panthers. Right now, the Falcons, who are tied, like I said earlier, for first place in the NFC South with the Saints and Bucks. They're coming in as a 3-point favorite. I mean, and, I like their chances because realistically, I don't see the Panthers beating anybody this year. I mean, Bryce Young has struggled. Both these rookie quarterbacks have struggled. I mean, if you really look at it, both of them have 9 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. This is Bryce Young and Desmond Ridder. But I think the Falcons have the better team. The Panthers right now, they're going to finish with the worst record and the number one spot in the draft. The biggest question is, do they take Caleb Williams with that number 1 pick and decide to move on from Bryce Young, or do they trade back or take someone else or whatnot and decide, we do have our quarterback here. We're just going to use that pick to either move back or get a guy that's going to be able to build around him. I don't know. I think this is an audition for Bryce Young. These next 4 games are an audition. And this is his opportunity to kind of say, I'm the guy here. You need to build around me. So we'll see what happens. Either way, regardless of how he plays, I don't see the Panthers winning more than maybe a game the rest of the way. And I don't see them winning this game. I'm picking the Falcons to win and to cover the 3, which takes us to our 4 o'clock games. The first one is the Commanders, the Washington Commanders at 4-9, who are traveling to LA to face the LA Rams, who are at 6-7 and are coming in as a 6.5-point favorites. The Commanders just aren't a good football team. They've lost 4 in a row. Sam Howell is mediocre at best, if you ask me. And the Rams right now, they lose a tough one. They lost a tough one last week to the Ravens in overtime, 37-31. But they can score points. You got to give it to McVay. He is probably the most gifted play caller that we have in the NFL. And Stafford, he can get the ball to his receivers and put points on the board. Right now they're a top 10 offense in average points scored. They're averaging close to 23 a game, and they've scored 30 in the last 3 games. They have weapons. Williams at running back is a dual threat, both on the ground and in the passing game. You got Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp combined. Those two have close to 1,700 yards receiving and 7 touchdowns. 2 viable weapons with 2 great names too. Has there ever been a better wide receiver combo with 2 names like what they have? Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. I love it. So I like the Rams. I think the Rams are peaking right now at the right time. And if the defense gets a little bit better, they can make some noise and possibly get into a 6 or 7 seed. So I'm going to pick the Rams to win this game big at home and obviously cover the 6.5 points, which takes us to our next game between the 10-3 San Francisco 49ers, who are traveling to Arizona to face the 3-10 Arizona Cardinals. Ladies and gentlemen, you win 5 in a row. You're considered the best team in football. And for your troubles, you get one of the worst teams in football on your schedule, the Arizona Cardinals. Must be good to be a 49er fan, I'll tell you that much. Realistically, I don't see anybody right now today, if the season ended, that can beat the Niners, mostly because they are so balanced on both sides of the field. I mean, offensively, they're a top team offensively now. They are third in the NFL in average points scored, almost 30 a game. And they are first. They are number one in average points allowed. So they're only giving up less than 16 points a game. That's a recipe to win a Super Bowl. And if the season ended today, they'd be my favorite. But again, a lot can happen the next 4 weeks, right? There could be injuries. They can go cold. There could be another team that gets hot at the right time. I'm just saying right now, it's going to be hard for me to pick them to lose against anybody. Brock Purdy is a legit MVP candidate. I said that last week. 70% completion percentage, averaging 273 yards in the air. He's accurate with the football, 25 touchdowns against 7 INTs. It also helps to have a plethora of weapons. I mean, Christian McCaffrey, again, a guy who's in that conversation, 17 total touchdowns on the ground and in the air. And then you have a trio of receivers with Ayuk, Kittle, and Deebo Samuel that have 14 touchdowns combined. That's insane. You combine that with a secondary that will take the ball away from you if you're careless, and a front four that has Nick Bosa on one side and Chase Young on the other side. Right now, you got to seriously think who can beat them. Definitely not the Cardinals. I mean, 12.5 points. I actually thought the spread would be higher. Even so, it is fairly high. I mean, anytime that you favor a team, an NFL to beat a team by 12.5 points against another NFL team, it's always going to be high, but not high enough for me. If you ask me, I think the Niners win this one big and they cover the 12.5 points, which takes us to our next game, which I think could be the game of the week between the 10-3 Dallas Cowboys, who are traveling to Buffalo, Orchard Park, to face the 7-6 Buffalo Bills. The Bills right now are a 2-point favorite. That's interesting to me, especially since the Cowboys are coming in with the top offense in the NFL and the better record. But a lot of people are starting to believe in the Bills right now, including me. I think the Bills are starting to get into a stride right now. There was obviously a big win at Kansas City last week, 20-17. They eked that one out. Josh Allen has been playing a lot better since Joe Brady was promoted to offensive coordinator. You got to give him a lot of credit. He's toned down on the turnovers. He's playing more controlled. The offense is playing more fluid. They're running the football. They're not just relying on Diggs, so he's spreading the football around as well. So that's good. Scoring points have never been a problem for the Bills. They're actually 5th in the NFL in average points scored with almost 27 a game. So they put points on the board. And their defense is top 10. I mean, they're 6th right now in average points allowed. They're only giving up a little bit over 18 points a game. So this is going to be an interesting matchup. I mean, it really is. I mean, the Cowboys, they're a juggernaut on offense. They're first in average points, almost 33 a game, and that's mainly because Dak Prescott is playing like the best quarterback in football right now. Almost 70% completion percentage, 28 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. So he's taking care of the football. CeeDee Lamb, almost 100 catches for over 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns. Great chemistry between those two. You combine that with, again, another top defense. I mean, right now they are 9th, in sacks with 38. That's led by the beast Micah Parsons. And they're 4th, in total amounts of interceptions. So, defensively, they're a great team all around, offensively and defensively. That's why this matchup is so intriguing to me. But as good as the Bills been playing, man, it's hard for me to believe that anybody right now is going to be able to stop the Cowboys on offense. They look like they're in a tremendous groove. They're red hot, and they're just playing so much in sync. I mean, that's the biggest question that most Cowboy fans are going to ask is this Dak Prescott and this offense going to show up when the games really matter? I don't know. I can't answer that question. But right now, they're showing up, and you got to give them credit. I'm going to take the Cowboys to win this game by an upset and go into Orchard Park and beat the Bills. Which takes us to our Sunday night game between the 10-3 Baltimore Ravens. They're traveling to Jacksonville to face the 8-5 Jacksonville Jaguars. The Ravens are coming in at a 3-point favorite. No surprise. They're the most complete team, in my opinion, in the AFC because they are one of the top teams in offense and they are one of the top teams in defense. Right now, they are fourth in points, averaging on offense, almost 28 points a game. They're putting up on average, and then they are second in average points allowed, with a little bit over giving up or not giving up more than 16 points a game. So they can do it on both sides of the ball. Lamar Jackson is playing like the Lamar Jackson of his MVP season. In fact, last week he went head-to-head in the passing game with Matthew Stafford. He passed for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also ran for 70 yards. So Lamar Jackson won't hesitate to run the football as well. He is obviously still one of the best dual threat quarterbacks that we have here in the NFL. This is going to be a tough one for the Jaguars. I mean, Trevor Lawrence did come back. I didn't think he was going to play for a few weeks with that high ankle sprain, but he taped it up. You got to give the kid credit. He taped it up. He went out there, but he wasn't really that good. I mean, he threw 3 interceptions in a loss, and they've lost 2 in a row. And this is mainly because their defense just hasn't been good. They've shown a lot of kinks in their armor recently. And that's concerning. It really is. And you would also hope that Trevor Lawrence didn't come back too soon. It's almost like it would have been better for him to kind of sit out and rest that ankle for a couple of weeks so he could be a little bit more stronger going into the playoffs. But again, give the kid credit. He's tough as nails. I think this is a tough matchup for them, even though they're playing at home. I'm going to pick the Ravens to win this game and cover, which takes us to our Monday night game between the 10-3 Philadelphia Eagles traveling to Seattle to face the 6-7 Seattle Seahawks. The Eagles are coming in at as a 4-point favorite. The story here is, what the hell is going on with the Eagles, man? They definitely don't look like the Eagle team that made it to the Super Bowl last year. If you're an Eagle fan, you keep asking yourself week after week, when is that team going to show up? Right now, you got to wonder, are they ever going to show up? There's only 4 more weeks left. If they don't start showing that they're that same team from last year, they're going to struggle going into the playoffs. I mean, they can score points, but their defense has not been good this year. I mean, their defense, they're 28th in average points allowed. They're giving up close to 25 points a game, which means they have to score 30 points a game to win. And Jalen Hurts hasn't been exactly lights out passing the football either. Last year, he was an MVP candidate. This year, he's been good. I mean, he has 19 touchdowns, but he's also turned the ball over a lot. He has 10 interceptions. The thing with the Eagles are if they move the ball and they get close to the end zone, within 5 yards of the end zone, more than likely they're going to score. The Philly shove, the tush push, whatever you want to call it, it's pretty much unstoppable. And that's why Jalen Hurts has 12 rushing touchdowns on the season. So you give them credit. They have weapons. I mean, Antonio Brown is a beast. I mean, 90 catches, over 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns. Devontae Smith is an excellent receiver. I mean, so they have weapons. I mean, but I don't know, man. I'm concerned. I mean, in these last two losses, they've given up 42 points and 33 points in 2 games where they weren't really competitive. So I don't know. I mean, but again, if you're going to face a team, that you're going to try to get right against, this is a good team to face. I mean, the Seahawks themselves, they're struggling as well. I don't know if Geno Smith is going to quarterback, maybe Drew Lock. Either way, I don't trust the Seahawks to win this game. I think the Eagles get right. I don't know if you're going to see the Eagle team of last year, but I think they're going to do enough. They're going to be that team that were finding ways to win when they were 10-1. So I'm going to pick the Eagles to win and to cover the 4 points. And then the last game I want to cover, which is a Sunday 1 o'clock game that I skipped over, was the Jet game, because I will not be doing a separate video. So we'll cover that one now. The 5-8 New York Jets are traveling to Miami to face the 9-4 first place Miami Dolphins, who are an 8.5-point favorite at home. The story here is, what Jet team is going to show up on offense? Last week, in the second half, we actually looked like one of the best offenses in the league. Go figure. And that was only after weeks and weeks of looking like the worst in the history of football. I got to give credit where credit is due, though. I mean, we won that game because of the AFC Player of the Week. And I can't believe I'm saying that. Zach Wilson. That's right. Zach effing Wilson actually won AFC Player of the Week, and he was sensational. I mean, like I said, I got to give the kid credit. 75% of his completions, he nailed on. He passed for 301 yards. Don't remember the last time he did that. He had 2 touchdowns, but he made a lot of great throws in this game. He was accurate. He was decisive. He threw the ball like an NFL quarterback with confidence is supposed to throw the football. I was proud of him. It was good to see. And honestly, even though Nathaniel Hackett has been terrible, he actually called a good game in the second half. In the second half of that game. You know, it was creative. They mixed it up. They let Zach loose. They let him sling the football. They found Breece Hall in the short passing game. He had 8 catches for almost 90 yards and a touchdown. They continue to get the ball to their best wide receiver, Garrett Wilson. He had another 100 yards receiving. They got Xavier Gibson involved with some wide receiver runs. He scored a touchdown. Tyler Conklin has been big over the middle, especially on third down. A lot of creativity in the second half. You're hoping that this is going to be the norm going forward, because if the Jets can find a way to score anywhere between 20 and 30 points, they're going to be hard to beat with this defense. And I don't care who they're playing against. I know Miami is high flying. I get it. You know, they're tops in the league. They're second right now in average points scored, almost 32 a game. I know Tua's been good, passing for almost 4,000 yards, 24 touchdowns. But don't get it twisted. He makes mistakes too. 10 interceptions. 2 of them were against us in the first half on Black Friday. If it wasn't for that pick 6 Hail Mary, the Jets go into the half 10-6 down. Don't think they win because we had no quarterback. But who knows? Who knows if we turn them over another 1 or 2 more times and the defense can get another score. I mean, like I said, Tua has a tendency to be careless, especially when Tyreek Hill is not in there. And right now, who knows if he's going to play? I don't know. He was banged up last week with an ankle. He found a way to get back in. It seems like every time he gets banged up, he'll sit out a bit, but he'll come back in. Give him credit for that. But sooner or later, that's going to catch up to you. It's almost like he's fighting a 12-round fight. He's got pounded on for 11 rounds, and he's got to find a way to get into that 12th round and survive. Well, I'm hoping that this week against the Jets, it's that 12th round, and we're able to pound him into submission. That's what I'm hoping for. We got to limit the big plays, because when he's out there, big plays have the tendency to happen. He runs by people. Looks like Tua just throws it as far as he can, and he'll find a way to catch the football. That's why their offense is explosive. I mean, they line him up all over the place, and they use him. So, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I mean, you know, obviously Miami's the better team. But, I mean, last week they did show some kinks in the armor. I'm not 100% sold on them defensively. But, again, if we can't score any points, it really doesn't matter. Their offensive line is banged up, and they're going against probably the best defensive line in football. I don't think that we'll have to blitz. We usually don't. I don't think we'll blitz at all this game as well, and we'll get some pressure on Tua. Hopefully get him to throw a couple more interceptions to us, and hopefully maybe we can score a touchdown and take advantage of some of these turnover opportunities. I don't know. I mean, you just don't know what Zach you're going to get. You'd like to think that since there's no pressure on him, and he did say going into that, you know, before last game that he's got nothing to lose, so he's going to go out there and sling it. Hopefully he plays with that mentality the rest of the way, because if he does and we're able to put up some points, there's a good opportunity we can win some games. We can win the majority of our games. There's some winnable games on the schedule. This one may not seem to be a winnable game, but I think it is. So I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to pick the Jets to win this game by upset. That's right. I haven't made a crazy pick in a long time, so I thought it was due. I think the Jets are going to win this game. I do. I think Zach is going to. I don't think Zach is going to play as good as he played last week, but I think he's going to play a solid football game. And I think Tua is going to struggle. Anytime that a good defense sees a good offense 2 times within a 3-week span, to me that always benefits the defense. We've already felt them out. We've already felt their speed. We've gauged what they can potentially do with some of the with some of the gadget plays that they do and mixing things up. So we have some video, some film. I think that's going to benefit a very, very solid and one of the best defenses in the league. And I think they're going to play lights out this game, and the Jets are going to win. And those are my Week 15 predictions. Hope you enjoyed them. Let me know your thoughts. Feel free to drop a comment. And if you are new to watching my videos, please subscribe and hit that notification button as well, because I'm dropping videos all the time. So So you hit that notification bell and you'll be notified. That way you'll be the first to watch. But as always, I appreciate everybody for tuning in, and I appreciate everybody for your support. I love doing these videos. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, this is your boy Johnny, signing out from the Hangout Spot, and I will talk to everybody soon. Good luck with your picks.